What's up, y'all? In today's video for Alpha Universe, we're gonna break down a 3-light studio setup using continuous lights. If you're wanting to get into studio portraiture and you're struggling to figure out how to light your subjects, this is the video for you. So let's get right into it. First things first, the camera and the lens combination that I'm using here for these shots is the Sony Alpha 7R5. This is my workhorse camera for studio portraiture, high resolution, amazing autofocus. That's what we're gonna be using for today's shoot. I've got it paired up with the 50mm f1.4 G Master lens. This is a lens that I typically don't use for portraiture, but given the environment that we're shooting in, that 50mm focal length looks absolutely beautiful. So we're gonna use it for this. It's insanely sharp. Once again, the autofocus and the motors on this lens keep up with the body, which is very important. And then I have something here that you would not otherwise have seen unless I mention it, but I've got this Tiffin. It's a Hollywood star filter. And essentially what this does is any light sources, whether it's a light source on the set, or in this situation, our model is wearing some like sequins type of an outfit. And so when the light reflects off of that, instead of you seeing a point source of light, you're gonna see little star trails, which is gonna look kind of cool. It's gonna add a little bit of little something extra to the shot. So that's our camera, lens, and of course the filter we're using. Let's take a look at the lights. So our main light here for these shots is actually going to be this Nanlite Forza 720. It's a LED light, continuous light. It's set to 5600 Kelvin. I've got it going through a double diffused softbox, which means that you have a layer of diffusion inside the softbox and you have one on the outside. This is a 90 centimeter softbox. And I've also got a grid on this. And part of the reason that I have it that way is that I really want to concentrate the light just on Caitlin so that I can get the light looking really good on her. And then I could light the background separately. So this is going to be the main light. It's doing the bulk of the heavy lifting for this portrait shoot. Let's talk about the backlights that we have that are lighting our backdrops. So for our backlights, these lights are actually just giving a little kiss of light on the backdrop so that we can separate our subject from the background. This is a Hobolite Avant light, and it's on one of their stands with a softbox that also has a grid. Because again, I want to control where the light is going. I really just want to add this kind of like little hot spot on the background, just so that we have a little bit of pop between the subject and the background. So that's our backlight. This light that we have here, this is going to help me with the star effect that we're getting on Caitlin's dress. So I'm gonna have this basically just pointed at her dress so that it reflects off of her dress and we can see the little star patterns coming from the reflections from the light. So that's what this light is doing. This is the Hobolite Mini. And again, all of these lights, these are the ones that I'm using because I have them here in my studio, but you could use any constant light. Just make sure that you have them all set to the same color temperature so that you can get the effect that you want. But that's what we're using for our lighting. Let's talk really quickly about the backdrop. So our backdrop is a big part of this photo shoot and kind of pulling off this look that we're going for. This one is made by Intuition Backdrops, and it's got this kind of cool scene behind us with just kind of like a fine art type of backdrop. It's got a nice little sweep. This is part of the Westcott X-Drop system. So these are really nice because you could actually just pick up this entire backdrop and just move it if you were doing a photo shoot on location. I'm doing it here at my studio, so I don't have to worry about that. But if that's your thing where you want to do kind of like a run and gun studio setup, you could totally do it with this backdrop, with this system. So with that being said, let's kind of dial in our settings and let's figure out where we need to be to get these portraits that we're going to shoot, get them to pop. So we're here right now with Caitlin. She's got this really cool outfit. It's kind of like this 1920s flapper type of outfit, which I think looks awesome. I think it kind of goes with the vibe of the backdrop and kind of gives this really cool fine artish type of look. Our camera settings right now, we've got this at f1.4, so I'm shooting this wide open to kind of give that dreamy blur to the background. I'm shooting at 1/400th of a second, and I'm at ISO 100. I set the ISO to whatever the lowest ISO is on whatever camera that I'm using, because the way that I do my studio lighting, what I'll end up doing is I want the lowest ISO to get the cleanest shot, and then my lights, I'm gonna dial those up to give me the exposure that I have already dialed into my camera, which are the settings that I just gave you. So with that being said, our main light here that we've already talked about right now is currently set to 11%. What I'm gonna do is take a look at that using the live view on the camera, and I'm gonna take a look and see if that 11% output is giving me enough. As you can see, it is not. She's very dark. We're just gonna bring this up here until we bring her out of the shadows. So that's one of the cool things with the electronic viewfinder with a mirrorless camera, especially when you're using continuous light. What you see is what you get. So you're basically just looking either through the EVF or looking at the monitor. You dial up that light until the main light looks great, and then you should be good. So right now that's our setting. We'll take one shot here and we'll play it back. And so the lighting on Caitlin looks really good. I might actually just bring it up a little, tiny bit more. Take a little step forward. There you go. Yeah, so right there looks pretty good. Perfect. So now that we have our main light dialed in, we're gonna turn around, get the backlight set up, and then we'll do our third light. We're gonna turn on this backlight here, and this light is lower powered than our main light. So because of that, I'm gonna have this at 100% brightness. And that light, I'll take it off of the backdrop here, but you can see it's basically just adding a little tiny kiss of light to the center of the backdrop. If I took the grid off, it would actually just light a lot of the backdrop. But I really want it to be a focused beam of light that's just really hitting the center of this backdrop so that we could have this kind of carving out effect. So this is also set to 5600 Kelvin. And just kind of looking at that and seeing where it needs to be pointed, I could see that right here, we're getting some light on the background. So that's all that we're doing with this one. We're gonna use that third light, which is the Hobolight Mini, to basically add a little bit of light to Caitlin's dress. And we're gonna see if we can get that kind of cool star pattern that we're looking for. So let's get to that one. Okay, so now we have this light on. And one of the things you wanna make sure of when you have the light in this kind of position is that if this light was higher powered, had more of an output than your main light, it's gonna create what's called monster lighting. You know, that campfire light where you have a flashlight under your face and it uplights you. You don't want that. As long as this power level is lower than the power level coming from your main light, you won't have that monster lighting look. The easiest thing to do is I actually just look at Caitlin and I try to make sure that the shadows are still falling in the correct direction. So being that the light is here to the right, hits here on the right side and the shadows should be falling off to the left, which is what's happening. So we're gonna feather this light, which basically just means I don't wanna point it directly at her. I'm gonna point it off to the side, and I'm really just trying to get the lights to hit her dress a little bit. So you're seeing a little bit of the sparkle from the dress. That looks perfect. With this star filter, we should hopefully see little tiny star patterns coming from the dress, which just adds a little bit of like magic and just a little bit of fantasy element to these shots. So those are the settings, that's the lighting. Let's start shooting. Studio lighting, when you're using continuous lights, it really doesn't have to be all that difficult. If you want to learn more about studio lighting, I have several great lighting tutorials here at Alpha Universe. I've got them here in a playlist for you to check out on the screen. Go ahead and check that out if you want to learn more about lighting, camera settings, all of that good stuff using Sony Alpha cameras, and I'll see you next time.